Admiral Kim Tae-ho sat in the large meeting room on Concordia Prime. The room was huge and made of smooth white stone that seemed to glow. Around the circular table sat representatives from the most powerful species in the galaxy. For 3 years, Kim had come to this place to talk about peace. For 3 years, he had listened to the same insults and dismissive words. The Viridian Empire controlled the most star systems. Their leader, Chancellor Kethmore, looked like a giant lizard with bright green scales and cold yellow eyes. He spoke in a hissing voice that always sounded angry. The Nexari Trade Federation ran most of the shipping between worlds. Their ambassador, Felthek, looked like a praying mantis the size of a human, with 4 arms and clicking sounds when he talked. The Qualian theocracy claimed to speak for the gods. High Priest Morden was made of pure energy that floated in a special container, changing colors when he was upset. The Brakthari Dominion loved war more than anything else. Warlord Gexaval was made of living crystal that reflected light in sharp, painful ways. Kim looked around the table and felt tired. These peace talks had started after the Rim conflicts, a series of small battles near human space. The aliens had attacked human colonies, thinking humans would be easy to defeat. They were wrong. Human forces had fought back hard and won every single battle. But instead of being respected for their fighting skills, the aliens acted like the humans had been lucky. Dr. Park Hya-jin sat next to Kim. She was the smartest person Kim knew, a scientist who studied alien life forms. She had spent years learning about each species around the table. Her job was to help Kim understand how to talk to them. But after 3 years, Kim was starting to think that some species just could not be talked to peacefully. Today was supposed to be different. Kim had brought a new plan for ending the conflicts. He wanted to create areas of space where no military ships could go. These neutral zones would keep the different species from fighting. It was a simple idea that had worked many times in human history. Kim stood up and activated his holographic display. A 3-dimensional map of the galaxy appeared above the table, showing the borders between different territories. Red lines marked where conflicts had happened. Blue areas showed where Kim wanted to place the neutral zones. Honored delegates, Kim began, using the formal language the aliens preferred. The Terran Federation proposes the creation of demilitarized zones along our mutual borders. These areas would be monitored by joint patrols and would prevent future misunderstandings. Chancellor Kethmore's yellow eyes gleamed with amusement. His scaled lips pulled back to show rows of sharp teeth. Misunderstandings? He hissed. Is that what humans call their pathetic attempts at expansion? The other delegates made sounds that Kim had learned meant laughter. Felthek's clicking grew faster, while Mordun's energy form shifted to bright orange, which meant he found something funny. Gexval's crystal body rang like wind chimes as vibrations of amusement passed through him. The young species thinks it understands warfare, Morden said, his voice echoing from his containment field. How amusing. The Qualians have been fighting holy wars since before your son was born. Kim felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice calm. With respect, High Priest, the goal is to prevent warfare, not to prove who is better at it. This made Kethmore laugh harder. Perhaps the humans should focus on learning proper galactic etiquette before presuming to offer strategic advice. Your species has been in space for what? A few hundred years? We have been building empires for millions of years. Warlord Gexval's crystal form pulsed with red light. The mammals think they are warriors because they won a few small battles. Wait until they face a real military force. Ambassador Felthek leaned forward on his 4 arms. The economic data shows that human territories produce very little of value. Why should we waste time on neutral zones with such a minor trading partner? Kim looked at Dr. Park. She had warned him this might happen. The aliens saw humans as newcomers who did not deserve respect. They thought humans were weak because they asked for peace instead of demanding submission. Dr. Park stood up slowly. She was much smaller than most of the aliens in the room, but something about her presence made everyone stop talking. She looked around the table with calm, dark eyes. "The Terran Federation withdraws from these proceedings," she said in a clear, quiet voice. "We came here seeking peaceful coexistence, but it appears the galaxy prefers other methods of communication. We shall respect that preference." The silence in the room was complete. Even the humming of the building's systems seemed to stop. Kethmore's amusement faded. "You cannot simply leave. These talks are mandated by the Galactic Accords." The Galactic Accords apply to civilized species who respect diplomatic immunity and basic courtesy, Dr. Park replied. "Since such conditions do not exist here, the Accords do not apply." She walked to her chair and picked up a small data pad. She placed it in the center of the table. "This contains the coordinates of all human colonies and the current locations of our fleet. Since diplomacy has failed, we assume you will prefer to handle future communications through more direct methods." Kim stood and followed Dr. Park toward the door. Behind them, the alien delegates were starting to talk at once, their voices rising in anger and confusion. "Wait!" Felthek called out. "You cannot leave economic agreements unfinished. The shipping contracts are terminated," Dr. Park said without turning around. "All human trade routes are now closed to non-human vessels. All technical support agreements are void. All joint research projects are ended." She stopped at the door and looked back one final time. "We offered friendship and partnership. You chose mockery and condescension. Live with your choice." The heavy doors closed behind the human delegation with a soft sound that somehow felt final. In the meeting room, the four most powerful leaders in the galaxy stared at each other in shocked silence. Chancellor Kethmore was the first to speak. "Good riddance. Now we can divide their territories among ourselves without their constant whining about peace." But deep down, something cold was growing in his chest. Humans had never backed down from a fight before. Why were they backing down? Now? Outside the building, Kim and Dr. Park walked toward their ship without speaking. Other members of the human delegation joined them, all moving with the same calm purpose. "Was that wise?" Kim asked quietly. Dr. Park smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "Admiral, we have been preparing for this moment since the day we first met an alien species. The galaxy wants to see what humans are really capable of. I think it is time we showed them." As their ship lifted off from Concordia Prime, Dr. Park sent a single coded message to Earth. 3 words that would change everything. "Execute Protocol 7. Across human space, people who had been waiting for those words began to move. The galaxy was about to learn that humans had been holding back for 3 years. Now the gloves were coming off. The first sign that something was wrong came 12 hours after the humans left Concordia Prime. Ambassador Felthek was trying to contact the human trade station at Kepler 442b to discuss shipping schedules when his communication officer brought him disturbing news. "Sir, we are getting no response from any human facility," the young Nexari officer clicked nervously. "All channels are showing as blocked or disconnected." Felthek's compound eyes focused on the communication displays. Where there had once been hundreds of active human frequencies, now there was only silence. He tried calling the main human embassy on Centauri Station. The call went through, but instead of Dr. Park's assistant, an automated voice responded. "This is Terran Federation Emergency Services. All diplomatic communications have been suspended. Please contact your local authorities for assistance." "Contact my local authorities?" Felthek muttered. "We are the authorities." He tried calling human colonies directly. The same automated message played every time. Felthek's 4 arms tapped against his desk in growing frustration. The Nexari had trade agreements worth billions of credits with human worlds. Those agreements required constant communication to coordinate shipments. On the other side of the galaxy, Warlord Gexval was having his own problems. His crystal scouts had been watching human military movements for weeks, waiting for the right moment to test their defenses. Now his scouts were reporting something impossible. "Warlord, the human colony at Wolf 359 is gone," his lieutenant reported, light pulsing through his crystal body in confusion. "Gone? You mean destroyed?" Gexval asked. "No, sir. Gone. Empty, like they all just left." Gexval's crystal form turned sharp red. "Show me." The holographic display activated, showing the Wolf 359 system, where there had once been a busy mining colony with thousands of humans. Now there were only empty buildings and silent machinery. Ships that had been docked at the station were gone. Even the orbital defense platforms were powered down. "Check the other border colonies," Gexval ordered. One by one, his scouts reported the same thing. 15 human colonies along the Brakthari border had been evacuated. Not abandoned in panic, but carefully emptied with military precision. Nothing valuable had been left behind. Even the computer systems had been wiped clean. High Priest Mordoon was facing a different kind of crisis. The Qualian people depended on sacred energy sites throughout the galaxy to maintain their existence. Many of these sites used human technology to contain and focus the dangerous energies involved. Without proper maintenance, the sites could become unstable. 3 days after the humans left the peace talks, warnings began appearing at holy sites across Qualian space. The energy containment fields were showing signs of stress. Mordoon sent his technicians to check the human-built equipment, but they discovered something alarming. All the human machinery had locked itself down. Access panels would not open. Computer systems would not respond to Qualian override codes. "Most Holy One," his chief technician reported, "the human systems are operational but completely sealed. It is as if they are waiting for something." Morden's energy form shifted to worried purple. "Contact the human technical support team immediately. We have tried, Most Holy One. Their communication channels are closed. The emergency contact numbers lead only to automated messages saying that all service contracts have been terminated." As the days passed, the situation grew worse across the galaxy. The Viridian Empire discovered that their supply chains were failing. Many of their worlds depended on human-manufactured spare parts for critical systems. Mining equipment broke down and could not be repaired. Agricultural machines stopped working, threatening food supplies on dozens of worlds. Chancellor Kethmore called an emergency meeting with his advisors. "How did we become so dependent on human technology?" he demanded. His economic advisor, a nervous Viridian named Hasek, consulted his data tablet. "Your Excellence, it happened gradually over the past 20 years. Human products were always cheaper and more reliable than alternatives. Their customer service was excellent. Their trade terms were generous. It seemed logical to use their equipment. And now we have thousands of machines that only humans know how to fix. Our industrial output is dropping every day. Some worlds are reporting critical shortages." Kethmore's claws scraped against his chair. "Contact their trade representatives immediately." "We have tried, Your Excellence. All human trade offices have been closed. Their staff simply left. They even turned in their diplomatic credentials before departing." The most disturbing reports came from intelligence services across the galaxy. Spies who had been watching human activities were discovering that they had been completely wrong about human capabilities. A Nexari intelligence officer reported to Felthek, "Sir, we have been monitoring human cargo ships for years. Our analysis suggested they were simple merchants with basic defensive capabilities. However, recent sensor scans of departing human vessels show massive energy signatures that do not match our previous data." "What kind of energy signatures?" Felthek asked. "Military grade, sir. Weapons and shielding systems far more advanced than anything in our databases. Either the humans have been hiding their true capabilities, or those cargo ships were not what they appeared to be." Similar reports were coming in from all the major powers. Human research stations had been discovered to have defensive capabilities that rivaled military bases. Human survey ships carried sensor arrays more sophisticated than anything the galaxy had seen. Human colonists had training and equipment that looked more like special forces than farmers and miners. General Yoon Dae-sung sat in his command center on Earth, watching reports flow in from across human space. The evacuation of border colonies had gone perfectly. Every human civilian had been relocated to secure systems within 48 hours. Military assets had been repositioned according to plans that had been decades in the making. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving hundreds of contact attempts from alien governments. They are requesting immediate restoration of trade and technical support services." "Response?" Yoon asked. "None, sir. All alien communications are being logged but not answered." Yoon nodded. "Continue monitoring. I want to know everything they are saying about us." The reports were fascinating. Alien leaders were starting to panic as they realized how much their societies had come to depend on human expertise. Trade routes that had operated smoothly for years were breaking down. Technical problems that humans had always solved quietly were now becoming major crises. Engineer Choi So-young was overseeing the final phase of the withdrawal from her facility on Titan. Her terraforming projects had been running across dozens of worlds for years, always presented as simple agricultural improvements. In reality, they were part of something much larger. "Ma'am," her assistant reported, "all deep infrastructure projects are now in stealth mode. Surface activities have been terminated, but the core systems remain active and hidden." "Excellent. How long until the aliens realize what we were really doing?" "Based on their current technology levels, probably 6 to 8 months before they understand the scope of the project. By then, it will be far too late to interfere." Choi smiled. The galaxy thought humans were simple farmers and miners. They had no idea that every human colony was connected by technology that made conventional space travel look primitive. They had no idea that the agricultural improvements were actually strategic preparations that had been going on for decades. Captain Lee Jun-ho was aboard one of the ships that aliens had always assumed was a cargo hauler. In reality, it was a stealth warship with capabilities that would shock the galaxy. He was reviewing intelligence reports about alien fleet movements. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "Brakthari forces are massing near the Tau Ceti system. It looks like they are planning to occupy the colonies we evacuated." "Let them," Lee replied. "They will find some interesting surprises waiting for them." The abandoned human colonies were not as empty as they appeared. Automated defense systems had been left behind, carefully hidden and programmed to activate if hostile forces tried to occupy the facilities. The aliens were about to learn that humans had been playing a much deeper game than anyone realized. 2 weeks after the humans left the peace talks, the galaxy was in chaos. Trade networks were failing. Technical systems were breaking down. Intelligence services were reporting that they had completely misunderstood human capabilities. Ambassador Feltek finally managed to get a response from a human source, but it was not what he expected. A brief message appeared on his communication system. "The Terran Federation is no longer accepting diplomatic communications from the Galactic Council or its member species. All previous agreements are considered void. Future contact will be handled through appropriate military channels." The message was signed by Admiral Kim Tae-ho, but his title had changed. He was no longer listed as Chief Diplomatic Representative. Now he was Strategic Defense Coordinator, Terran Federation. The galaxy was beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. They had thought humans were weak because they talked about peace. They had thought humans were simple because they acted friendly. 3 weeks after the human withdrawal, Warlord Gexaval decided he had waited long enough. The empty human colonies were too tempting to ignore. His crystal warriors were eager for conquest, and the abandoned worlds seemed like easy targets. "We will occupy the mining colony at Kepler 186F, he announced to his war council. "The humans left valuable equipment behind. We will claim it for the Brakthari Dominion." His fleet of 50 warships approached the seemingly dead world with confidence. The planet's surface showed no signs of life. The mining facilities stood empty and silent. The orbital stations were dark. It looked like an easy victory. Captain Lee Jun-ho watched the approaching Brakthari fleet from his hidden position in the asteroid belt. His ship, disguised as space debris, was invisible to their sensors. He had been waiting for this moment. "Sir," his communications officer whispered, "should we warn them off?" "No," Lee replied quietly. "Let them land. They need to learn this lesson properly." The Brakthari ships entered orbit and began landing troops at the main mining facility. Gexval himself led the landing party, his crystal body ringing with anticipation of victory. The facility appeared completely abandoned, just as their scouts had reported. "Secure the central processing plant," Gexval ordered his warriors. "Take control of the administrative center. This world is now Brakthari territory." His soldiers spread out across the empty buildings, their crystal bodies reflecting the alien sunlight. Everything seemed to be going perfectly. Then one of his warriors stepped on the wrong floor panel. The entire mining facility came alive. Hidden sensors that had been dormant for weeks suddenly activated. Security systems that had been sleeping woke up. Defense turrets that had been disguised as ordinary. Equipment rose from concealment and began tracking targets. "Intruder alert!" announced a calm human voice from speakers throughout the facility. "Hostile forces detected, initiating defensive protocols." Energy barriers slammed down, trapping Brakthari soldiers in sections of the facility. Automated weapon systems began firing with deadly precision. But these were not ordinary weapons. They fired energy beams that disrupted the crystalline structure of Brakthari bodies, causing them to crack and shatter. Gexval tried to retreat to his ships, but discovered that the landing pads had been sealed by force fields. His warriors were trapped on the surface, while automated systems hunted them through the empty buildings. "How is this possible?" he roared into his communicator. "The humans abandoned this world." High above the planet, Lee Jun-ho activated his ship's true systems. The disguised cargo hauler shed its fake outer hull like a snake shedding skin. Underneath was a sleek warship with weapons that no alien had ever seen before. "Brakthari fleet," Lee transmitted on an open channel. "You are trespassing on Terran Federation territory. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Gexval's remaining ships in orbit turned their weapons toward the source of the transmission, but they could not get a target lock. Lee's ship moved in ways that defied known physics, as if it was bending space around itself. "Impossible," Gexval's fleet commander reported. "Their ship is using some kind of spatial distortion technology. Our weapons cannot track it." Lee's ship demonstrated its capabilities by destroying 3 Brakthari cruisers in rapid succession. The weapons it used seemed to tear holes in space itself, causing the enemy ships to simply vanish. "Final warning," Lee transmitted. "Leave now, or join your warriors on the surface." The surviving Brakthari ships fled in panic, leaving Gexval and his ground forces trapped on the hostile world. The proud warlord found himself hiding in a storage room while human machines hunted his soldiers like animals. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other secrets were being revealed. Dr. Park Hye-jin was in her laboratory on Europa, reviewing data from her years of xenobiology research. In reality, she had been conducting the most comprehensive intelligence-gathering operation in galactic history. Every friendly conversation, every innocent question, every polite request for information had been part of a massive data collection. "Effort. Computer, display biological vulnerability assessment for Viridian Empire," she said. Holographic displays showed detailed information about Viridian physiology, including their weaknesses. Dr. Park had discovered that their cold-blooded metabolism could be disrupted by specific sound frequencies. She had learned that their scale regeneration could be halted by certain chemical compounds. Most importantly, she had found that their neural pathways were vulnerable to electromagnetic interference. "Display psychological profile for Chancellor Kethmore," she continued. Another display showed years of behavioral analysis. Dr. Park knew exactly how the Viridian leader would react to different types of pressure. She knew his fears, his ambitions, and his breaking points. The same detailed profiles existed for every major alien leader. "Dr. Park," her assistant called out, "we are receiving reports from our deep cover agents. The aliens are starting to realize that their understanding of human capabilities was completely wrong." Dr. Park smiled. "Good. How are our people performing?" "Perfectly, ma'am. The farmers and miners they dismissed as simple colonists are revealing their true backgrounds. Former military engineers, special forces operatives, intelligence specialists. The aliens never suspected that our agricultural colonies were actually forward operating bases." Engineer Choi So-young was overseeing the next phase of the revelation from her command center on Mars. Her terraforming projects had been running for decades, always presented as simple environmental improvements. The aliens had watched human farmers working to improve soil quality and adjust atmospheric conditions. They had no idea what was really happening. "Activate Phase 2, she ordered. Across dozens of worlds, the true extent of human terraforming became visible. The agricultural improvements had been carefully designed modifications that connected each world to a vast network. Underground tunnel systems that had been disguised as irrigation networks were actually high-speed transportation links. Atmospheric processors that had appeared to be weather control systems were actually components of a galaxy-spanning communication array. "Ma'am," her chief engineer reported, "all primary nodes are now active and synchronized. The network is fully operational." Choi looked at the display showing the connected worlds. What the galaxy had seen as scattered human colonies were actually components of a single, massive fortress. Each world could support the others. Resources could be moved instantly through the tunnel networks. Information traveled faster than light through the atmospheric communication system. "How long until the aliens understand what we have built?" she asked. "Based on their current technology levels, they will need months to even begin to comprehend the scope of the project. By then, every human world will be functionally invulnerable to conventional attack." The revelations were not limited to human colonies. Admiral Kim Tae-ho was aboard what aliens had always assumed was a simple transport ship. In reality, it was the flagship of a fleet that had been hiding in plain sight for years. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving panic transmissions from alien intelligence services. They are discovering that their assessments of our military capabilities were completely wrong." Kim nodded. "What are they saying?" "The Nexari Trade Federation has admitted that they misidentified our cargo ships as civilian vessels. They now estimate that at least 60% of our merchant marine consists of military vessels in disguise." "Only 60%? Kim asked with amusement. "They are still underestimating us. The truth was that humanity had no purely civilian ships operating in alien space. Every cargo hauler, every passenger transport, every research vessel was actually a sophisticated military platform. The humans had learned early that the galaxy was a dangerous place, and they had prepared accordingly. General Yoon Dae-sung was coordinating the revelation from Earth. His staff was releasing carefully selected information to demonstrate human capabilities without revealing everything. "Sir," his intelligence chief reported, "alien spy networks are in complete confusion. 20 years of intelligence gathering has been proven wrong in a matter of weeks." "What are they most concerned about?" "The discovery that human civilians were actually military personnel in disguise. They are realizing that every friendly human they met was actually an intelligence operative gathering information about their species." Yoon smiled grimly. "And what are they concluding?" "That humans have been planning for this conflict since first contact. They are starting to understand that we never trusted them, despite our friendly behavior. The most shocking discovery came when alien forensic teams finally gained access to abandoned human equipment. What they found defied their understanding of technology." A Qualian technical team managed to partially access a human computer system left behind at an evacuation site. What they discovered sent shockwaves through their leadership. Most holy. 1, the lead technician reported to High Priest Mordun. The human technology is far more advanced than we realized. Their computer systems use quantum processing methods that we thought were impossible. Impossible how? Mordun asked, his energy form shifting to worried colors. The collapse began in the economic centers of the galaxy. Ambassador Feltek stared at the financial reports flooding his desk, each one bringing worse news than the last. The Nexari Trade Federation, which had controlled galactic commerce for thousands of years, was facing complete bankruptcy. "Sir," his economic advisor reported with clicking sounds of distress, 17 major shipping routes have been suspended due to equipment failures. The cargo haulers are breaking down faster than we can repair them. Feltek's compound eyes focused on the holographic displays showing trade route maps. Across the galaxy, red warning lights marked failed shipping lanes. What about the spare parts we ordered from Viridian suppliers? The Viridians are having their own problems, sir. Their manufacturing plants rely on human-designed efficiency improvements. Without technical support, their production has dropped by 70%. The truth was becoming clear to Feltek in the most painful way possible. For 20 years, human innovations had quietly become the foundation of galactic commerce. Jump drive improvements that made faster-than-light travel economical, navigation systems that reduced shipping costs, cargo handling equipment that automated most loading operations. All of it was human technology, and all of it was now failing without human maintenance. "Sir," another aide reported, "we have received responses to our emergency requests for technical assistance." And all human corporations have formally terminated their service contracts. They cite violation of diplomatic protocols as grounds for immediate cessation of all business relationships. Feltek slammed his forearms against his desk in frustration. "They cannot do this. The economic disruption will affect billions of beings." "Actually, sir, according to our legal department, they can. The service contracts included diplomatic protection clauses. Since their diplomatic immunity was violated during the peace talks, the humans have legal grounds to void all agreements." On the other side of the galaxy, Chancellor Kethamore was discovering that mockery had a very high price. The Viridian Empire was facing civil war as subordinate worlds began demanding answers about the economic collapse. "Your Excellence," his military advisor reported, 14 colony worlds have declared independence. They claim that your actions have destroyed their economies and they refuse to follow leaders who cannot provide basic services." Kethamore's claws scraped against his throne. "Send the fleet to bring them back under control." "Sir, the fleet is experiencing massive equipment failures. The warships use human-designed power distribution systems. Without replacement parts, half our ships are barely operational." The situation was becoming desperate across Viridian space. Hospital equipment was failing, leaving patients without life support. Transportation systems were breaking down, stranding citizens on remote worlds. Even basic communication networks were becoming unreliable as human-built components failed. One by one. "How did we become so dependent on them?" Kethamore demanded. His economic minister, Hasek, consulted his failing data tablet. "Your Excellence, it happened gradually. Human products were always superior to our alternatives. Better quality, lower cost, excellent customer service. Our corporations chose to use human suppliers because it increased profits. And now we discover it was a trap. Not a trap, sir. More like strategic patience. The humans seem to have been preparing for this situation for decades. The Qualian theocracy was facing a different kind of crisis, but equally devastating. High Priest Mordun floated in his containment field, watching energy readings from sacred sites across Qualian space. The numbers were getting worse every hour. "Most Holy One," his chief technician reported, 3 more sacred sites have become critically unstable. Without human technical support, we cannot maintain the containment fields. How long until catastrophic failure? Mordoon asked, his energy form shifting to deep red with worry. The worst cases? Perhaps 48 hours, Most Holy One. If the containment fails completely, the energy release could destroy entire star systems. Mordoon had always claimed that the Qualians were beings of pure energy, superior to physical species like humans. Now he was discovering that his people's very existence depended on human technology. The irony was painful. Have we received any response to our emergency requests? No, Most Holy One. All human technical teams have been withdrawn. Their emergency contact protocols now require formal diplomatic channels, which no longer exist. The Brakthari Dominion was experiencing a different kind of collapse. Warlord Gexaval had been rescued from the Kepler 186F system, but the humiliation had shattered Brakthari confidence. Warriors who had thought themselves invincible had been defeated by machines. Ships that had been the pride of the fleet had been destroyed by weapons they could not even understand. Warlord, his chief military advisor reported, morale among. The warrior caste has reached critical levels. Many are questioning whether we should continue expansion plans. Gexval's crystal body was still cracked from his encounter with human defensive systems. What are they saying? They are saying that the humans were toying with us during the Rim conflicts, that our victories were allowed to happen, that we have been fighting children's games while they prepared for real war. The psychological impact was devastating. Brakthari society was built on the concept of warrior superiority. The discovery that humans had been holding back during their previous conflicts had shaken the foundation of their culture. Sir, another officer reported, intelligence suggests that the human cargo ships we have been tracking are actually advanced warships. Our entire assessment of human military capabilities was wrong. The cascade of failures was accelerating. Without human technology and expertise, the galactic economy was grinding to a halt. Worlds that had prospered for generations were suddenly facing shortages of basic necessities. Engineer Choi So-young watched the collapse from her command center on Mars. Her screens showed real-time data from across the galaxy, monitoring the breakdown of systems that humans had quietly improved over the years. Ma'am, her assistant reported, the Nexari trade network is operating at only 30% capacity. The Viridian manufacturing sector has essentially stopped functioning. The Qualian energy grid is approaching critical failure. And their attempts to reverse engineer our technology? Complete failures, ma'am. Every piece of human equipment they have examined contains quantum-encrypted components that self-destruct when tampered with. They are discovering that our simple technology is actually more advanced than anything in their databases. The aliens were also discovering another unpleasant truth. Every human they had dismissed as a harmless civilian was actually a highly trained specialist. The farmers who had worked on agricultural improvements were actually engineers and terraforming experts. The miners who had operated extraction facilities were actually military logistics specialists. The traders who had negotiated commercial agreements were actually intelligence operatives. Dr. Park Hyojin was reviewing reports from deep cover agents who were finally revealing their true identities. For 20 years, humans had maintained a massive intelligence network throughout galactic civilization. Every major alien government, military organization, and corporation had been thoroughly infiltrated. Dr. Park, her communications officer, reported, "Our operatives are confirming that alien leadership is in complete panic. They are beginning to understand the scope of our intelligence gathering operations. What are their primary concerns? They are realizing that we know everything about their societies, their weaknesses, their military capabilities, and their political structures. Meanwhile, they know almost nothing about us." The revelation was particularly devastating for alien intelligence services. For decades, they had been proud of their spy networks and information-gathering capabilities. Now they were discovering that humans had been feeding them carefully selected information while gathering comprehensive intelligence about every aspect of alien civilization. Captain Lee Jun-ho was coordinating military operations from his flagship. Intelligence reports showed that alien fleets across the galaxy were experiencing equipment failures and morale problems. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "the Brakthari fleet has withdrawn to defensive positions around their home worlds. The Viridian Navy is operating at reduced capacity due to maintenance issues. The Nexari security forces are focused on maintaining order in their trade centers. And our fleet status? All ships are operating at full capacity, sir. The revelation of our true capabilities has been completed according to schedule. We are ready for Phase 4, Lee smiled grimly. Phase 4 was the demonstration that would end any thoughts the aliens might have about continuing their aggressive policies toward humanity. General Yoon Dae-sung was coordinating the overall strategy from Earth. His staff was managing the most complex military operation in human history, and it was proceeding exactly according to plan. "Sir," his intelligence chief reported, "alien governments are beginning to request direct communication with human leadership. They seem to be ready to negotiate. Are they offering genuine concessions or just trying to buy time?" Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the final preparations for humanity's ultimate demonstration. Around him, officers who had pretended to be simple diplomats for years were now wearing their true uniforms. The bridge itself had been transformed, revealing advanced technology that no alien had ever seen. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "all human fleets are in position. Deep space monitoring stations confirm that alien sensor networks are tracking our movements." "Excellent," Kim replied. "They wanted to see what humans are really capable of. Let us give them a lesson they will never forget." The demonstration began at exactly 12 AS Universal Standard Time. Across the galaxy, human forces simultaneously revealed the true extent of their capabilities. On the border between human and Brakthari space, Warlord Gexval was monitoring what he thought was a small human outpost. His scouts had reported only minimal defenses and a few cargo ships. He had decided to attack, hoping to restore Brakthari honor after his humiliation at Kepler 186F. "All ships, attack formation," Gexval ordered. "We will show the galaxy that the Brakthari are not afraid of human tricks." His fleet of 200 warships approached the human position with confidence. The outpost appeared to be just a small space station with a few defensive platforms. It looked like an easy target. Captain Lee Jun-ho watched the approaching fleet from his command post. What the Brakthari saw as a simple outpost was actually a mobile battle station with capabilities that would revolutionize galactic warfare. "Captain," his tactical officer reported, "enemy fleet is entering optimal engagement range." "Begin transformation," Lee ordered. The space station suddenly began to change. Sections that had appeared to be cargo bays opened to reveal massive weapon arrays. The defensive platforms detached and revealed themselves to be independent warships. Most shocking of all, the station itself began to move, demonstrating mobility that should have been impossible for something so large. "Impossible!" Gexval roared as his sensors struggled to track the transforming human facility. "That station is larger than our biggest dreadnoughts. How can it move like a fighter?" His question was answered when the station opened fire. The Kai's weapons it used were unlike anything in galactic databases. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, they seemed to manipulate space-time itself. Brakthari ships simply vanished as reality was twisted around them. The engagement lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. When it was over, Gexval's entire fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The warlord himself found his flagship, trapped in some kind of spatial distortion that prevented him from moving or communicating. A message appeared on his emergency screen. "Warlord Gexval, you are now a prisoner of the Terran Federation. Your actions have been recorded and transmitted to the Galactic Council as evidence of continued Brakthari aggression. Consider this a lesson in the consequences of testing human patience. Similar demonstrations were occurring throughout the galaxy. Near Viridian space, Chancellor Kethmore watched in horror as human ships emerged from what had appeared to be empty space. They had been hiding using technology that made them completely invisible to Viridian sensors. Your Excellence, his naval commander reported with panic in his voice, a human fleet has appeared near our capital system. Our sensors show... This is impossible. Over 3,000 ships. 3,000? Kethmore hissed. The humans were supposed to have fewer than 500 ships total. Sir, our intelligence estimates were apparently completely wrong. These ships are using technology we have never seen before. They appear to be jumping directly through space without using conventional FTL drives. Kethmore watched the tactical display as human ships demonstrated capabilities that challenged his understanding of physics. They moved in ways that suggested they were manipulating gravity itself. Their weapons could apparently strike targets across vast distances without any projectile or energy beam being detected. Are they attacking? Kethmore asked. No, sir. They are just watching, waiting. A message appeared on the main communication screen. Admiral Kim Taeho's face looked directly at Kethmore, and his expression was completely cold. Chancellor, Kethmore, the Admiral said, you dismissed human strategic advice as the words of primitive mammals. You mocked our desire for peaceful coexistence. You treated our diplomatic representatives with contempt. This is what humans are capable of when we stop asking for permission. The screen showed a tactical display of the human fleet surrounding Viridian space. Every major planet, every military base, every industrial center was within range of human weapons. We could destroy your entire civilization in a matter of hours, Kim continued. Instead, we offer you a choice. Acknowledge human sovereignty and treat our species with respect, or face the consequences of your arrogance. Near Qualian space, High Priest Morden was experiencing a different kind of demonstration. The energy beings who had claimed superiority over physical species were discovering that humans understood energy manipulation far better than they did. Human ships appeared near the most sacred Qualian sites, but instead of threatening them, they began to stabilize the failing containment fields. Technology that the Qualians had struggled to maintain for millennia was easily repaired by human engineers. Most Holy One, his chief technician reported in amazement, the humans are solving our containment problems in minutes. Their understanding of energy physics exceeds our own by orders of magnitude. How is this possible? Morden asked, his energy form shifting through confused color patterns. Dr. Park Hee-jin appeared on their communication system, her face showing the polite smile that Morden now realized had been hiding vast intelligence and capability. High Priest, she said, your people exist as beings of pure energy, but you never truly understood energy itself. Human science surpassed your knowledge decades ago. We have been quietly maintaining your sacred sites while studying your physiology. The revelation was devastating. The Qualians had always believed they were the most advanced energy-based life forms in the galaxy. Now they were discovering that physical beings they had considered primitive had evolved beyond them in every meaningful way. Ambassador Feltek was experiencing his own humiliation as human ships appeared throughout Nexari space. But these were not the simple cargo haulers he had known. They were massive vessels that made the largest Nexari ships look like toys. Sir, his aide reported, human vessels are appearing at every major trade hub simultaneously. They are demonstrating shipping capabilities that exceed our entire merchant fleet. How many ships? Feltek asked. Over 10,000, sir, and they are all armed with technology we cannot identify. A communication came from engineer Choi So-young, who Feltek had always dismissed as a simple technical specialist. Ambassador, she said, the Nexari Trade Federation built its economy on the assumption that you controlled galactic shipping. That assumption was incorrect. Humans have maintained our own shipping network for decades, using technology that makes your best ships look primitive. The screen showed the true extent of human space. Instead of the few dozen colonies that appeared in galactic databases, there were over 300 human worlds, all connected by transportation technology that made conventional space travel obsolete. We allowed you to believe you controlled galactic trade because it suited our purposes, Choi continued. We could have dominated galactic commerce at any time. We chose not to because we preferred peaceful coexistence. That preference has now ended. General Yoon Dae-sung was coordinating the demonstration from Earth, watching as reports flowed in from across the galaxy. Every major alien power was simultaneously discovering that they had completely misunderstood human capabilities. Sir, his intelligence chief reported, alien governments are requesting immediate emergency communications. They appear to be ready to negotiate. Are they offering genuine concessions or just trying to buy time? Yoon asked. The communications suggest genuine panic, sir. They are beginning to understand that humanity has been the dominant power in this galaxy for years. We just chose not to exercise that dominance. Yoon nodded. Send them Admiral Kim's final message. Let them understand their new reality. The message that went out to every alien government was simple and direct. The Terran Federation has demonstrated a fraction of our true capabilities. We have shown you that we could have dominated this galaxy at any time in the past 20 years. We chose not to because we believed in the possibility of peaceful coexistence between species. Admiral Kim's image appeared on screens across the galaxy, his expression stern but not hostile. You have taught us that the galaxy respects only strength. We accept that lesson. From this day forward, human space is sovereign territory. Any attempt to enter our systems without permission will be considered an act of war. Any attack on human interests will result in immediate and overwhelming retaliation. However, Kim continued, we do not seek conquest or domination. We seek only to be left alone to develop our civilization in peace. Those species that wish to establish genuine diplomatic relationships based on mutual respect may apply through proper channels.